visit. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. It is a privilege to be here, and I don't like these things. There's for people with PhDs and things like that. As you did here, I once played professional football. I always tell people I played football probably for about 22 years of my life. And one of the reasons I say that is because when I was 7 years old, I received a pair of shoulder pads and helmet for a present. And I knew what I was going to receive because my father and I went down to the store a few days earlier. I tried on all the equipment to make sure he brought the right size equipment home. So the day I knew I was going to get that present, I'm sitting on the porch, anxiously awaiting my father to arrive home from work. And as I was sitting on the porch, I could look across the street. All my friends, they were playing in a game of football. So I sat there, I was fantasizing about how when I had all my equipment on, how I was going to go across the street. I was going to be the star of the game. I was going to be scoring touchdown after touchdown like Jim Brown. So my father finally pulled into the driveway. I ran to the car, grabbed my present. I don't even think I said thanks. Ran into the house, put all of my equipment on. And I was standing there in the mirror, and I knew I was all that. Then I ran down the stairs across the street, ready to be the star of the game. As I came running across the street, all my friends saw me. They stopped playing football. Everybody ran up to me, gathered around me. I mean, my friends were just a ooh and an ah. I was the only kid in the neighborhood who had a pair of shoulder pads and helmet. So both teams started arguing because both teams wanted me on this side. You know, they figured me having all that equipment on, that I had a real big advantage. You know, if someone were to try and tackle me, I might not go down real fast. Or maybe if I was to tackle someone, they wouldn't get up real fast. So they kept arguing and arguing and arguing, and I finally ended up on one team. And like I said, because I had all that equipment on, they saw the wisdom of it. They put me in the backfield, let me run the football most of that afternoon. But there was one person on the other team who was really not impressed with my gladiator type appearance, and her name was Denise Buck. She was the meanest, toughest tomboy any neighborhood in America's ever seen. And I mean, from the first play, she was slinging me, slamming me all over that field. And I was never more relieved when it started to get dark, because when I was a child growing up when it came dark, I always had to go home. And I remember walking back across the street, wishing I'd gotten a G.I. Joe or something. When I entered into the house, my father must have been watching. As soon as I entered in, he started in. He told me that I went out there and I wasted his hard-earned money in that equipment, and I let a little girl humiliate me like that. So now when I visit my parents, whenever I become a little too proud, a little too boastful, some of my accomplishments in athletics, all my father do, he'll leave out of the room and start hollering out the least button. I don't have no way to pull it up from there. But it was a great time. Football is a wonderful sport. 2 days in football, there's nothing harder than that. It's all the sports. It is. For all you football players, go at it. And that's a quick thing I need to go do here. I know everybody's familiar with it. There is an analogy, an illustration, whatever you want to call it. It is how you see this glass is the kind of person you are. And you see it half full, you are a. And you see it half empty, you are a. And you know what? That sounds good, doesn't it? And I always imagine, every time I meet people, they all go, I see it half full, I see it half full. Everybody like to pat themselves on the back. But you know what? As I sat one time and I really pondered this thing, this is very superficial and generic at best. Because see, it's an observation, it's a perspective. And it's easy when you look at something and go, oh yeah, okay. But what happens when your life enters into the half empty? It takes on a whole different meaning then. When your life enters into the half empty. You think of all those people this summer down there in the Gulf. When that oil started bubbling, the first couple of days, they were okay. But after a couple of weeks, months, every time I saw CNN interviewing some of those people whose lives were directly affected by all that oil, I never ever heard them say something like, well, you know, stuff happens. Because their life entered into half empty. Everybody I heard was human venom. Think of all those people who had their life savings with Barry Madoff, thinking their golden years were secure. When they found out it was a Ponzi scheme, I didn't hear not one person say, hey, sun gonna come up tomorrow. But see, their life entered into half empty. So it's easy to sit back at this glass and go, yeah, but what happens when your life enters into? Share a quick story with you. As I said, I played college football, Michigan State, the first 3 years. That guy named Dennis Stokes was a coach. He got fired, unfortunately. So they hired a new coach. His name is Darryl Rogers. He came in, everybody wanted to meet him. He got hired. He called a team meeting. We're all sitting in this auditorium-like room. He walks in, and he walked up to one of those podiums. And he said, gentlemen, I think maybe that's why I don't like him. He said, gentlemen, he says, I want you to know something. He said, from this moment, your blankety-blank opinions don't blankety-blank mean nothing around there, and blankety-blank more. He says, my blankety-blank opinion is going to be the only blankety-blank opinion that matters. He says that if you don't blankety-blank like it, you can blankety-blank on back to your dormitory, you can pack your blankety-blank bags, and you can blankety-blank on home. And he walked out the room. I sat there, looked around the room and saw my team. They saw the expressions on their faces. I knew what I was feeling. I said, man, I'm glad I only got one more year here. I was feeling sorry for guys who were freshmen. We went to winter ball, everybody getting in shape. Spring practice rolls around. Football players, you know, spring practice is just gladiators every day. No ball game, it's just gladiators every day. First day of spring practice, walked in the locker room, he says, Joe, he said, I see everybody almost dressed. He said, tell you what, I said, take your clothes off, your equipment off. We're just going outside and run a little bit. He walked on out. Everybody's high-fiving, man, maybe this guy ain't gonna be so bad after all. So we went outside, and we ran, 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 and we ran. We got through running, we were dead tired. Called everybody up. He said, Joe, look like you've really been working hard this winter. He said, I'm proud. He said, everybody line back up in his position, calisthenics. He said, we're going to do a few up downs. And for maybe some of the ladies who don't know what the up down is, I think most men does. The coach stands and blows the whistle. You run in place, when he blows the whistle, you hit the ground and jump back up. So we stood in our positions, and he was blowing that whistle. 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 We must have been 20, 25 minutes of him blowing that whistle. Some of the guys quit, went back, got them a cup of Gatorade. I could hear him back there grumbling, saying, who that blankety blank he think he is? I ain't blankety blank more than he's up down. And he kept blowing that whistle. And he kept blowing that whistle. I thought I was going to die as he kept blowing that whistle. He finally stopped blowing that whistle. Went through spring practice. Went home for the summer, came back for fall ball. Season started. Something I noticed, that everybody who quit went back there, started drinking Gatorade, mumbling and grumbling, never ever played another down at Michigan State University. See, Darryl Rogers is kind of smart now to think about it. Because Darryl Rogers didn't know us to some degree, like I don't know you, like you don't know me. Darryl Rogers didn't care about who was the strongest, who was the fastest, who was the quickest, anything else. Darryl Rogers wanted to find out who had it here. We'd be walking back to the dormitories after eating. A lot of guys would be mumbling and grumbling about, man, you know I should be playing. You know I'm better than so-and-so. And I stopped one day because I don't want to catch him. I said, you know what? I said, Darryl Rogers found out what you were really all about way back then. So you quit. So I tell you the truth, as a player on this team, I don't necessarily want you out on the field because you just showed us you'll quit. It's too hard. So all he cared about was what was in here. And that's how life is. President Heckler, right? Said it. I could have just came up here and said ditto after all that he said. Sometimes life gets hard. See, Darryl Rogers took each and every one of us, took our lives into that half full when he was blowing that whistle. So we was all, as far as football players, yeah, we were half full. Michigan State, full scholarship, walk around campus, tell the girls, hey, I'm a football player. Y'all lives was half full. But Darryl Rogers took us into the half empty to find out what's in here. Life's going to do that. It's going to take you to the half empty sometimes to see what you're really all about. But they say quitters never win, winners never quit. For all you football players, tough year, years like this, it finds out what you're really made of. Will you persevere? Will you stay active? See, because there were two guys who quit, went back to drink Gatorade. No ifs, ands, or buts. Should have made it to the NFL. Never got there. I don't know what Darryl Rogers told those scouts when they came, whatever. Never got a chance in the NFL. Now you tell me, if you would have told them, hey, if you do down-ups for another 5 minutes, you're going to be in the NFL. You know what they would have done? They'd have done 5 more minutes. Sometimes when you quit, you never realize it. I'm going to say this to you, gentlemen. Muslim fathers, nobody get mad, and I'm going to go out here on a limb. This is something I've seen for the last 25 years of my life. Probably safe to assume all you young men one day are going to get married. And with that, you probably have children. And they say, statistics is that 50%, most marriages end in divorce. Gentlemen, I'm going to ask you, challenge you, whatever you want to call it. If by chance one day you get married, 8 or 9 years, 10 years into that marriage, the girl started not making you put that smile on your face like it was when you stood at that altar. Don't you ever in your life quit on your kids. Don't you ever walk out of that house and say, I can't do this no more, and leave your kids behind, thinking that alimony is going to be enough, thinking you see them on every other weekend is going to be enough. You walk out on your kids because you can't be with that girl no more. Your kids' lives are going to enter into that half empty in ways you don't even understand. Don't you think alimony is good enough? Don't you think every other weekend is good enough? Whatever got you to that altar, you got to find a way to get back to it. I'm just asking, don't quit on your kids. I've seen the results, everybody kind of knows it, but I've seen it up close. Don't you ever in your life quit on your kids. Our lives, if you go here, how do we act? That's the test. And I'll say it to this, I'm going to close. See, it's a lot like this life. Go through this life, hair start getting gray. And we get close to that point in our life where we know we're getting to the end. And everybody wants to go to heaven. No ifs, ands, about it. Don't want to miss out on that. Not after all that we have to endure in this lifetime. And this guy's kind of like God. You know, a lot of people believe in God, but not everybody know God. And there is a difference. It'd be like if I brought Peyton Manning in here. A lot of you know he got a brother named Eli. His father's name's Archie. He went to Tennessee. A lot of you know about it. But how many people, if Peyton Manning were to come in this room, would he know by name? Which table could he walk up to and say, hey, how you doing, Chet? I ain't seen you in a while. See, we can know about something, but might not truly know him or he know us. And that's how it is with God. There's a great story in the Bible. There's a lady at the wedding. She was getting water. Jesus came up. Jesus asked her some water. She was talking to him. And Jesus told her, you know, if you really knew who I was, you wouldn't need this water because I give you living water. And she stood back and she said, but you ain't like our father Jacob, are you? And that was a funny moment. Because see, in that moment, she was talking about how she was religious, how she knew about something. But Jesus said, If you only knew who I was. I'm sure Jesus in that moment said, Jacob's okay, but he ain't me. But she was got religious with Jesus. You ain't like Jacob, right? And see, I say that to say this. Those men who flew those planes in towers in New York, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They were religious. They were religious. A whole lot of people walk around religious. But do you know Jesus? Do you know the stories? You didn't know his name. Oh, he was born in Bethlehem. His mom's name was Mary. His father's name was Joseph. You can know of something, but do you know him? There's a difference. I only say that to say this. Not everybody gets to heaven. The Bible says it. The Bible says broad, wide is the road to destruction. It says, but narrow and difficult is the way to glory. That passage right there says everybody don't make it. So I just said that to say, when you look at your life in perspective from God, don't just think because you know the stories. You got to know him. And that lady at the well, after she got the dialogue with Jesus a little more, she realized who Jesus truly was, and she accepted it, realizing that her just knowing about Jacob wasn't enough. She went back to her village. She said, hey, let me tell you who I met. Told her village with such great exuberance that the village came out to meet Jesus. At the end of that parable, that story, they said, you know what, man? They said, when you told us about Jesus, we believed. She said, now that we've met him for ourselves, we know. See, the story goes, Jesus was telling her she needed a drink. So I say it to you. The cup might be half full because you know of the stories. You know some of the particulars. But ladies and gentlemen, make sure you know him. Thank you.
Education, physical